Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, my distinguished Anioma patriots. My name is Dr. Nwankwo Toniwezigwe, the Odogo of IBUSA. Today, I'm going to look at the identity of my hometown, IBUSA, vis-a-vis its original Igbo origin and Benin influence. In other words, I'm going to speak on the interrogation, or what I call interrogating Anioma identity. In this case, IBUSA being the case study. And I have two hypothetical questions in this regard. Number one question is, how much Igbo culture is IBUSA? And the second question is, how much Igbo culture is Edo and Igala? So I'm going to look at this in the context of IBUSA being the core Igbo center west of the Niger. Core in the sense of origin, core in the sense of identity, being originally known as Igbo Binozo. So there's no denying of Igbo identity in respect of IBUSA this time. Core in the sense of the people still maintaining their Igbo identity. But they're underlining, or let me put it this way, beneath these elements or this commanding feature of collective Igbo entity are elements of Edo and Igala customs and tradition. Elements of Igala culture, Benin culture, Asian culture that definitely or subsequently transforms IBUSA into a new culture complex defined as Anioma culture, which is generally distinct, spatially distinct from the core Igbo culture in the East, with elements of Benin and Igala culture. Before I move on to this, I want to thank our most respectable honorable members of the Delta State House of Assembly, the 9 Anioma honorable members. I also extend my profound gratitude to our 9 executive chairmen of our 9 local government area councils for their bold step in defining the trajectory of Anioma identity, the trajectory of Anioma state agitation that revolves around the present core Edo Delta complex, multicultural complex. So I thank them for coming openly to say, look, Anioma state will be for South-South and not for Southeast. I also wish to thank His Royal Majesty, the Asaba of Asaba, Obi Professor Epiphany Azinge, for his unrelenting effort and principled stance on this issue of Anioma state for South-South geopolitical zone, in spite of all odds created and manipulated by Senator Nedimoko, all for his own selfish ends. So we thank you, Your Majesty. At least your actions have now made the battle easier for us. It is not a battle between some of those of us who don't believe we need Anioma state, who believe that the present Delta state, which was created on the instance of Anioma agitation, remains the best for Anioma people as it stands today. And of course, with this, it can easily harmonize, since our people will often say Maya Maya National. So both those who reject Anioma creation like me, and those who support the creation of Anioma state, like His Majesty, we now believe that whichever it goes, we will remain where we are today. So thank you, gentlemen. And I can say that that action is what the Benin people normally call in idiomatic sense, a strong man catch strong man, tie and put. To speak it in my pidgin Benin language, Benin tongue, Opia Gidibi, Mo Opia Gidibiba. Big man catch big man, tie and up. That was what happened to Ned Nwoko and his group of Ado-brained campaigners, most of them from the southeast, who are crying more than they breathed in this instance for all their collective selfish interests. Thank you, everybody. Today, I'm going to look at IBUSA because IBUSA history. What is our identity? Yes, we are of Igbo origin, but does that answer every question about IBUSA identity? The question is no. The answer is no, it doesn't. The answer of us about His Royal Majesty, Epiphany, as he has come out boldly to tell us the history of us, our people. And he was proud to say it. So today I'm going to talk about the history of IBUSA and how we are connected with Benin and other like Ishian, like Benin, and like also the Igala, including our East Niger Igbo people. Historically, IBUSA is an Isu town. It's an Igbo town. It belongs to the core Isu subgroup of Igbo land. I don't need to go into those areas because that will be a separate topic, a separate subject matter of issue. But the original founders of IBUSA migrated from the present Newi town. Newi town, precisely from Isu village of Uruago quarters in Newi. And that was from where our original ancestors of IBUSA migrated. And when they settled in this place, in the present site of IBUSA, sooner or later, and at the time they settled, their name, they called themselves Ndi Isu, Isumbogo, because they were warriors. But their neighbors, the neighbors of my ancestors, nicknamed them Ndi Igbo Binuzo, the Igbo living on the road. And what does that mean in history, in historical research? It means that the possibility of the neighbors of IBUSA people, of ancestors then, their possibility of not being Igbo, not being of Igbo ethnic origin, but other ethnic origin. Otherwise, if they were Igbo origin, they would not refer to their fellow Igbo settlers as Ndi Igbo. It is only the non-Igbo group that calls the Igbo group Ndi Igbo. So obviously, the summation of the origin of that, now the source of that, is that it was an appellation given by the non-Igbo speaking neighbors of IBUSA at that time, who classified them as the Igbo people living on the road or on the highway. So that was how we came about the name Igbo Binuzo. From Igbo Binuzo, shortened to IBUSA, the Igbo of the road. And then from IBUSA, the white men now anglicized it to IBUSA. But still the pronunciation remains the original name, IBUSA. So even if it is spelled IBUSA, it is pronounced IGBUZO, IBUSA. And any Anioma person making reference to IBUSA will always pronounce it IBUSA, notwithstanding the anglicized spelling. But the unique thing about IBUSA and why it's turned out to become one of the most populous indigenous towns west of the Niger is that sooner or later, not long after, to put it that way, other immigrants from other areas soon joined the original Isu settlers, coming to the point that as I'm speaking today, the original founders of IBUSA are minorities within the town, with the later immigrants constituting the majority in population. Even though the original identity of IBUSA remains the collective identity of all the diverse groups. And the appellation Isu, IBUSA Isumbogo, the Isu people, IBUSA, the Isu people who are the warrior Isu people, the Isu warriors, the warriors of Isu land, IBUSA Forge Ogujunni, the IBUSA people that saw war and refused to eat until they were able to get victory. These appellations remain collectively accepted by all the diverse groups who now live under the cover of IBUSA identity. So we discovered that after the original settlement of the original, after the settlement of the original settlers of IBUSA, there are groups that came over. We had Inri people who now came and joined them, people from the present Inri in Anambra State, Anocha local government area of Anambra State. They migrated and settled with them. People from Abo, the present headquarters of Abo on the River Niger, the present headquarters of Ndokwa East local government area, also came and settled with them, joined them. People with Okwe, from Okwe, came and joined them. People from Asaba came and joined them. People from Okpanam came and joined them. People from Ogwashuku came and joined them. People from Ishiago came and joined them. People from Akuku came and joined them. People from Oka came and joined them. People from Obosi came and joined them. People from Isu Anocha also joined. We also have people from Ebuduaka coming to join IBUSA. People from Isela Azaba. People from Ebuduaka coming to join them. People from Benin coming to join them. People from Esan coming to join them. You also have Igala people coming to join them. So the present IBUSA is a medley of people from diverse ethnic and sub-ethnic groups coming together to constitute the present IBUSA. So in origin, the original founders are Igbo. But then in origin, we can define IBUSA as multi-ethnic and multi-group origin. So there's no village in IBUSA out of the 10 quarters. You cannot see a group that came from outside to join it, like Obio people. Like yes, within their own village, they know those who came and joined the original settlers. So we can see that from that context that yes, IBUSA can be defined. Let me put it, can be defined as an Igbo settlement. But not all the people who constitute the IBUSA town today were originally of Igbo origin. That is the position of IBUSA in terms of migration, settlement, origin, migration, and settlement of IBUSA. Then the issue is this: how did most of these people come in, and what now became the nature of IBUSA customs and tradition? Because we discovered that not most of what stands out today as IBUSA culture are not of original Igbo, are not of Igbo origin, but borrowed from different areas that were either imposed or brought in by the immigrants. For example, we can talk of Benin. Yes. Did Benin have strong influence in IBUSA? The answer is yes. And how did they have it? How did Benin influence come over IBUSA? IBUSA was conquered at a time in our history by Benin Empire. The Oba fought our people, Oba of Benin Kingdom fought our people and imposed his authority on our people. So at a time, IBUSA was under the rule of the Oba of Benin, like most people of the present Anioma land. In the process of the Oba ruling over us, the Oba also demanded that he needed to have a king among our people who would be his heir. So he commanded my people to get candidates who will come for the election, for the selection. 3 people went. to Benin. And they won, and one was chosen. And that one came back and became our king. And his name was Ezech, Obi Ezech, or from Umueka quarters in the present Umuogwo. So Umuogwo was the original seat of the traditional ruler, the monarch of Ibuso, imposed on Ibuso people by the Oba of Benin. But not long after, Ibuso people revolted against the Oba, against the king, and drove him away. The Oba came as it was the case those days. Came with a punitive expectation to punish Ibuso for removing the king he imposed on us. Ibuso people did not fight much. They fled into the bush. And after the Benin army had all gone through, had all moved around and left, Igbo people came back again. And of course, during that battle, it's from that battle that bush rat or giant rat, what we call a rabbit, African rabbit in a traditional parlance, Ewi or Eyi in my place. That was when it became what? That was when it became a totem for my people. Because then, when the Oba invaded in the first time, all the other Ibuso people fled. Some fled to Akuku Igbo, some fled to Asaba, some fled to Ogwashuku. They fled. Some even fled to Onitsha. Because in the course of my field work at Onitsha in 1987, I interviewed some people from Ogboli Eke and Ogboli Olose. And their oral tradition is that Ibuso was the original home. That it was our war with the Oba of Benin that led them to now cross the River Niger and join the present Onitsha people. That they migrated from Ogboli Ibuso. So you have Ogboli Eke claiming to have come west of the Niger. Or you still have Ogboli Olose. The Ogboli Olose became part of the Ezechime royal family through marriage, not actually through paternal descent. So that's the case with the cause of that war. So what happened was that after the battle, really, I was talking about the rabbit. The rabbit, when the Oba invaded, the whole Ibuso people fled, except my own quarters, Ezuku quarters, did not run into the bush. And what they did was that rabbit, that giant rabbit, because we had a deity there, a EOG deity, that giant rabbit now went and borehole on all the roads, all the major roads leading to my village. Boreholes and covered all the legs of the people. So the Benin army came, they saw they could not see anybody's footprint there. They decided to go back. So our people did not run, flee from the Oba Benin. And so when my people now came, my people being the head of the town, when the people now came out of the bush, my people now said, look, the rabbit has done a good job for our people. And now it should not be a taboo for us and for all the Ibuso people. That no Ibuso man will eat rabbit. And rabbit should not be sold in any Ibuso market. Some Ibuso people refused, and so on and so forth. Then Ezuku said, okay, if that's the case, anybody who is related, who had a remote relationship with Ezuku quarters, if you eat it, either great-great-grandmother or what, if you eat it, it will pull off your nose. And a lot of people had remote relationship through marriage, through, from Ezuku quarters and so on. And some of them who tried it, who disobeyed, they got their nose pulled off. And the Ibuso people were now forced to now accept that rabbit as a main totem of the whole Ibuso. That today, You don't sell it in our market. You don't eat it. Other IBUSA people can kill it in their traps, but they won't eat it. They can sell it. But somebody from Ezuku cannot touch it. If your trap kills rabbit, you call another person to come, somebody who is not from Ezuku quarters to take it. Ezuku people cannot also, anybody related to Ezuku who is knowledge, who's sure of his relation with Ezuku cannot eat money, proceeds of the sale of rabbit, cannot touch it, cannot eat it. So that was how, and the issue of rabbit came. And when the IBUSA people now agreed, submit, finally, when they submitted to Ezuku position, Ezuku now said that we are now Oku, that our own speech is for big people, and that was how Ezuku now people now became took the salutation of Oku or the Oku. The strong man's talk is very difficult to argue with or to settle. So that's our own salutation in Ezuku quarters today. And it was in the process of that, when we now, after the Oba of people, Oba Benin had now left, it was in the process of that retreat of the Oba of Benin and Ezuku people not being, not being touched by the first Benin invasion, that some groups who now left, some of our family members now said no, they will not live within our village again. That is too much for them. That they will not move away. So now went further east and settled between rivers Atapo and Oduche towards Asaba and Okwe, and with a red boundary with Oko, so on and so forth. So they now settled there, and that's how we have the present Achala IBUSA town, lying south of Asaba and east of Okwe and west of IBUSA and south of Apeko and Oko. That was how Achala IBUSA now developed. And that was how IBUSA now took rabbits, African rabbits, as their major totem today. Just like many other towns have their separate totems. But the point is that after that initial invasion of Benin forces, IBUSA came out, and Oba of Benin decided to come a major punitive action against them. And that was when IBUSA now called Ezuku people. Now you have told us that you were protected by your deity, Yoji, with rabbits, and you have forced IBUSA people to now take rabbits as their totem. Now the Oba is preparing to invade us, because those days, we call it Iguaya, buying of war. The Ezechi bought, in our parlance, they say Ezechi Goli Ibuzo Ayaidu. That Ezechi bought Benin war for Ibuzo people. That's how people normally say it in our traditional parlance. So Ezechi now went, and Benin now, Oba Benin now prepared. Those days, because by footwork, it took Ibuzo people about 7 days journey from Benin City to IBUSA. So whenever the Oba's army forces are going for invasion, it is known. It is known because Oba will give order for all the towns on the way to provide provisions and men for his army. So as the Oba was coming down, and people will know where they were going to invade IBUSA. They knew about it. Because as the Oba's troops are moving, community will be levied of their food, their drink, other provisions, and even men that will join the forces. So it was a very big, it was not like the first one that few Oba soldiers, few Oba troops, army invaded. But this time is a very big force coming to invade IBUSA, with levies being collected along, men joining along the road from Benin to IBUSA. So it was known. It was so those days, if Oba of Benin was going to attack any community, people will know. Because as they are marching, the information will be leaking. The information will be delayed. Oba's armies are going to somewhere. So the communities that are going to be attacked, it's either they wait or they flee from their community. So IBUSA was aware. So they invited the Zuku people. So now you have to protect us now. Now that the way that your deity Yoji protected our people. And that was how they now went through divination. They call it, it's not just ordinary divination, they call it Emaute. Emaute, selection by Emaute. And through that Emaute, Udogo Okube from my own village, my father's maternal great-great-great-grandfather, whose father was from Abo, President Abo Mili. Abo, as I said, Abo in local East local government area. He was now selected by my village and handed over to IBUSA as the Odogu. And that was how the Odogu title now came to IBUSA. So Odogu Okube led his forces. Where I won't discuss the battle plan as we were told, but the issue is that he defeated the Oba of Benin, took over their Okanga, their war music. Others fled. Some went to Ogwashuku to settle, some went to Salazar, some went to Benin. The other people now decided to submit to IBUSA and settle with IBUSA people. That was how our people were able to defeat the Oba of Benin and gain our independence. But in spite of our independence, we still retain our respect for the Oba of Benin as a suzerain. It's just like Nigeria today has her own respect for the king of United Kingdom. So the same way we still reserve that utmost respect for the Oba of Benin as once our suzerain, as a monarch that once ruled over our people. So, and that is why Oba of Benin remains collectively accepted as the highest monarch among Edo Delta people today. There's no contest about it. It's not a question of ethnic identity. This is a fact of history, which we also treat with pride in our own case. In the course of it, Oba Asuja told Ubiezechi that he could go back to Benin and live with him. Ezechi said, no, he will not go back to Benin. Ubiezechi decided to move to the present town of Ejema Aniogo, south of Ogwash, in the present Aniocha South local government area, Ejema Aniogo, and settle there. And with other supporters, and some of his supporters, they now moved there and then settled there. So that's where his descendants live today, in the Ugbo Omoru waters. They live in Ugbo Omoru waters. And let us also know that Omogu, which is the greeting of the entire Umueka people today, is a Benin word. Omogu in Benin means the royal quarter within Benin Kingdom, within Benin City itself, Ogbo Benin City, the royal where descendants of the Oba live. Like we have Ogbo Obi, like in Ogwashuk we have you have Ogbentiobi in Ogwashuk, where most of the towns, most of the towns in Anoma land that have kingship have a special quarter for the royal kindreds known as Ogbobi. And that is why today the whole Ogbo Yese, the whole Otu Yese in IBUSA are known as also alternatively as Ogbobi. So Omogu, which is adopted as salutation for Umueka people, means the royal quarter. And Umuogo, from which Obiezech left into exile, from at which he now ruled, he once ruled, that Ogo is also a Benin term, meaning Ogo means a conflict of, a conflict, a fracas, a war, or a conflict between people of the same town and the same village. So that crisis that led to the overthrow of Obiezech now became known as Ogo. That crisis became known as Ogo. And Ogu, as I said, is a Benin term, meaning crisis and battle among people of the same town or the same kindred. So it was that crisis that was later adopted as a identity, as a kindred or village identity of the core place where Obiezeci lived. And that is why we have Umu Ogu today. That is the children of Christ, of conflict or whatever. That is a Benin term. So that is Benin term. So we now have Umu as a Benin term and Ogu as a Benin term being impacted on our people as a result of that Ezeci fracas and the existence of urban influence. And let us also understand that one of those people who contested is the kingship with Obi Ezeci in Benin Kingdom. One of them, his brother, did not want to come back to IBUSA after the defeat of his brother. He now decided to settle in present Onitsha in a village called Umoshomi. So Umoshomi quarters in the present Onitsha was founded by IBUSA people, those who lost the contest for the obiship, for the kingship of IBUSA before the Obora of Benin. In fact, if you are coming from Asaba, after the big Onitsha gate, you get just about 2 posts after, you get another smaller gate called, with a big signboard there, named Welcome to Umoshomi Village Onitsha. This specifically for those Igbo immigrants there. So that was one of the effects of Benin conquest. So Benin conquered our people, and our people revolted. And that is why Igbo today forms the barrier, the end point of direct Benin monarchy. After Igbo, it stopped at Ogwashuku in that respect. Asaba, where one person once went to Benin to become Oba before he could assume the position. Following Igbo revolted, and immediately the person also fled and then settled at the same Ejema and Nyogo today, where the former monarch of Igbo settled. So that is why today Asaba and Igbo, Okpanam, Ubolu, Ela, and those areas, most of the towns in Oshimili local government areas, mostly those connected in the Igala culture, like Asaba, never accepted the Benin type kingship. The present kingship Asaba has is Asaba, which evolved internally through Igala influence and was later formalized by the colonial masters. So Igbo reverted to gerontocracy. And that gerontocracy, in which the oldest man in Igbo ruled with the help of other traditional chiefs, now became the political framework on which Igbo was governed until after the creation of Delta State, that Igbo now said, okay, let's have a messenger who will be helping the job of Igbo for external matters on the administration of the town, and we created the IBUSA institution as the eye of the Diopa. But in fact, that was how the IBUSA institution came. So IBUSA institution is a new creation in IBUSA political framework. And that is why we're taking time to see how far we can go to make it blend, blend conveniently into our culture system. Because outside of IBUSA is the only institution that has no customary or ritual roles to play within the traditional or customary framework of IBUSA governance. And that has been the problem IBUSA have been having with IBUSA people, because there's always the attempt. Udogu has its own role to play ritual roles. Uwala has its own role to play ritual roles. The Inkwele has its own role. The ESA has its own role. All of them ritualized. The Omo has her own role, also ritualized. But Obuzo has not. So we see Obuzo trying to create a semblance of those rituals, and that has always formed part of the conflict Igbo people have with the institution of Obuzo. But we hope with time it will be blended into the traditional system of IBUSA. Having said that, we should know that the coming of the Benin not only created the Odogwu of IBUSA, it also created other traditional chieftaincy titles, like Owolo, which is also a Benin title, which came from Ehoro Nire. Yes, one of the Osama high chiefs, but now it's purely a warrior title in IBUSA. We also have the Iyase, which actually was domiciled within the zone where the Obi once lived. We now have Ikwele. Ikwele actually was a traditional Igbo title, one of the higher, high title in the titles in the present Idemili, Anocha, Njikoka, Newi, subcultural context of Anambra State, where they take serial, where also title taking is highly structured and developed. That in IBUSA. So that's how Ikwele came. Our forefather, the original founder of IBUSA, Ishite, took the title when he arrived in IBUSA. So that's why Ikwele is a traditional Igbo title that has now evolved into a Benin system. A Benin structured now into a Benin system, but with all the rituals aligned with Benin type of leadership. The Ikwele is the only metamorphose into a warrior king from being another also title, in the title in the Igbo land, now turned into a warrior king kingship title. In fact, before then, even up to now, the main chief traditional chief that plays the role of Benin plays is the Ikwele of IBUSA. The role any other traditional king plays in Anioma land is Ikwele. The Ikwele is the chief, is the commander-in-chief, is the field marshal of all the IBUSA ground forces, but he doesn't go to war. He crowns the Odogwu, he crowns the Owolo, and he crowns the Iyase. We are directly responsible to him. It is only hereditary title in IBUSA. Odogwu Owolo will rotate within kindreds, but Ikwele is there, stationed in a particular village, and that's my mother's village. And that is interestingly where Obuzo's mother came to. And that is why my mother is a direct cousin of the present Obuzos of IBUSA. So that's why I unite with the Obuzos of IBUSA. Our mothers came from that Ikwele royal family. And that was, of course, the basis for which my village supported the selection of Obi Professor Chilun Onwobosh as the Obuzo of IBUSA based on that connection. So that was, so Ikwele was like the traditional ruler of IBUSA, but all the features of a real traditional ruler, king in Anioma land, is attributed to Ikwele of IBUSA. Ikwele is a person who is in charge of the court of war, the Igbo. Well, I come to that later. But then that is issue. The Ikwele once represented Aniocha District Council in the meeting of Western National Traditional Ruler, meeting of Obas and chiefs. Then in Ibadan, he once represented Anioma District Council there. So Ikwele is the only person who also celebrates in a festival in Nigeria. If you kill a lion, you kill a tiger, you kill human being, you kill somebody in the war, you bring the head to Ikwele. Ikwele was the only person who can commute death sentence, You commit murder before you are apprehended and summarily executed by the town. You find your way to the palace, Ikwele's palace, Ikwele's palace, and lay hand in the Kengoha, the main court of war in IBUSA, the war deity in IBUSA, court, the Kengoha. You lay your hand there, Ikwele will declare everything, all the crime of murder or manslaughter you committed, which he announced it nullified, and nobody will touch. So Ikwele has so big power. And why the Ikwele title was unable to evolve into the kingship was because as was the case of most traditional families in Anioma, there are people, my mother's family never took education, Western education, serious. And that was the problem they had, and that's also the problem we're having today in that family, as with some, a lot of them. So that is so in IBUSA today, structurally, apart from Ikwele, which originated from east of the Niger, but which influence with time evolved into a Benin-style kinship. A Benin-style kinship. The other ones, the Odogu, followed by the Wall, followed by Yes and Omo, all derived their own features from Benin Kingdom. IBUSA is divided into four war zones. You have Otu Odogu, led by Odogu. You have Otu Wolo, led by the Uwolo. You have Otu Yese, led by the Otu Yese. The Otu Odogu consists of Ezuku quarters and Omeze quarters. Although they said Umweze, but the original name is Omeze. So in this analysis, I prefer using the original name of of a community than the old name. Ezuku, they call us Anyalobum, but yes, Anyalobum, but our original name is Ezuku, IBUSA. These two quarters now form the core, the headship of IBUSA in terms of war, in terms of customs and tradition, in terms of rituals, traditional rituals. Then you have Otuwolo, led by the Uwolo, with 4 villages: Ogboli, Umuodefe, Idinisaba, and Omuwawo, headed by the Uwolo. We now have Otu Yese, consisting of 2 quarters: Umueka, Umuehe, Ugbowolo, Umuezawo. Yes, consisting the Otu Iyese, led by the Iyese. So each of them, like the Iyese is in charge of the defense of IBUSA against Asabo, against Ogwash and some other group, the western flank of IBUSA and part of the northern flank. While the Uwolo is in charge of the eastern part of the eastern flank, facing Asaba directly from west, and Okpanam, Uwolo is in charge of that. While the Odogu is in charge of southern flank of Asaba, Okwe, Oko, and other areas. So this is the defense format of IBUSA, and that is why IBUSA is a warrior community. So in case of war, and in case of war from the west, if the ESA is able to, if ESA is overwhelmed, the Odogu will now come in and assist him. If the Uwolo is overwhelmed, the Odogu will now come and assist him. And if Odogu is overwhelmed, which means that should be a very big battle, the other 2 war chiefs will now come in and assist Odogu to prosecute the war. That was how IBUSA was defended at that time. That made it impossible, very difficult for the white men to defeat IBUSA during the Ekumeku war, Ekumeku resistance. Made it difficult for them to defeat IBUSA. More than 5 attempts, IBUSA defeated them until the final one in 1904, when they now set fire on IBUSA farmlands, burning their yam palms and so on and so forth. And that was where IBUSA now capitulated. Otherwise, IBUSA did not capitulate on the battlefield, just through battle and fire, through battle. So we have these traditional rules, traditional high chiefs, the Odogu, the Uwolo, headed by the Ikwele, who also crowns them. It is Ikwele that initiates them and crowns them, not the Obuzo, not the Diop IBUSA. It is Ikwele that initiates and crowns them. And that is also recognized by Western Nigerian, Western regional government, because there is a declaration on the crowning of the Odogu of IBUSA under the Western region laws, chiefs law of 1959, which remains applicable to this extent. So it is that government sanctions, the government sanctions the process on which Odogu Wolo and they say are crowned through the Odogu, through the Odogu. Why for the Ikwele is crowned by their own family. It is a family. The Okpala of the Ikwele family that crowns whoever emerges at the Ikwele of IBUSA. The Omu, which is for the woman, the Omu is a woman, and the Omu is crowned by the Otu Omu, who she passes through a ritual. The Omu, before you become Omu, you'll be highly spiritual. Not only spiritual, you must have entered the age of menopause. You must have entered the age of menopause. Going not just from 60 years upwards. So at that stage, having sex will not be your urge, so that you'll be spiritually mature and strong. You should also not live, you should not have married. If you had married, your husband must have died. Because as soon as you become Omu, you are no longer a woman. You are not a man. You will now move to your father's village, your father's compound, family, and that's where you now live and hold your palace. The Omu is also part of the war chiefs in Igbo, in the sense that her own warfare comes by spiritual means. Because everything about the spiritual protection of Igbo is entrusted on the Omu. Everything about major conflict. If you have a strong man in Igbo who feels that nobody can handle him, is so strong, the Igbo will hand the man over to the Omu of Ndiotu Omu. They will handle him. We used to have a case of one Obi Okoma of Obowele. Obi Okoma, when Igbo had a land case with Ogwashuku in 1935 or so, he went in because the Obi of Ogwash then, Obi Ezenwane, Obi Ogwash, Obi Ezenwane, also promised him that he will ask a white man to make him the king of Igbo if he comes and swear oath and bear false witness against our town over the land case. It's Obi Okoma now. So he went and swore and bore false witness against Igbo at the colonial courts over the land matter. The Igbo people came and were enraged. Normally, what Igbo did was ostracize him. Igbo ostracized him for doing that. They had nothing to do it. The Ogboli quarters, which also went and took the side of Ogwashu, the Ogboli quarters was also ostracized. In fact, Igbo brought the Ogboli quarters back after the Nigerian Civil War. That was when Igbo brought the Ogboli quarters back into our fold. Igbo ostracized Obi Anam, Obi Okoma now. Obi Okoma now, and now went and reported and sued Igbo people before the colonial court. The colonial court now ruled against Igbo that the community had no power to ostracize Obi Okoma now. So Igbo people were enraged and decided to call Ndiotu Omu under one Nsommo was the strike woman of that Otu Omu. She was from my own village, Ezugbo. She had a special spiritual strike squad among the Otu Omu. So the whole Igbo elders gathered and invited her and her group and said, now that Obi Okoma has proved that he is greater than our town, we now hand over Obi Okoma to you people. So they left. Within 4 market days, Obi Okoma fell ill and started swelling. And in a few days' time, he died. Was not even buried, was not given a burial, official traditional burial ceremony, and was buried outside it. That was how powerful the Otu Omu in Igbo was there. And that was why in those days it was difficult for anybody to appear dictatorial, either by the fact of your wealth or fact of your strength. To have social control mechanisms that will put you in your proper place. That was how the issue was handled. So the Omo has that role to play. In addition to being the head of the market, Omo is the head of the market. And if the Omo does not come to sit on the market, or what we call Idogba, putting her wares on the market, nobody will enter the market. And it happens today. Even it has not happened in Ogwashuku. Urbanization has not changed this fact. In Ogwashuku, in Asaba, especially in Asaba traditional market, Ubogonogu or Ubolie, if the Omo doesn't come there early in the morning, nobody can trade. So the Omo is a very powerful arm of our traditional governance in IBUSA. And that is why it's not Omo is not for young women. If you're still sleeping around and you still have your menstrual period is still running and so on, you can't be an Omo. And that is the problem I have with the one young girl, my junior cousin, who is parading herself as Omo IBUSA. You can't be Omo at the age of 30-something. You can't be Omo of IBUSA. With which spiritual pedigree can you be Omo of IBUSA? So that is, we have that standard rule. The Omo is also in charge of the second burial of women. Second burial of women, called Ibunu in IBUSA. The Omo sits in council with our, among us as the highest traditional chiefs in our town. You have any serious matter that concerns women that overwhelms the town is referred to the Omo. So everybody has its own role. Like the Kwele, the Uwolo, and the Yese. The Odogu, the Kwele, Odogu, Uwolo, and the Yese. We have our own governance. Apart from in peacetime, we have the authority to adjudicate on land disputes. And our decision on land dispute is final. We also dispute on minor infractions like fighting and so on and so forth. We also dispute on that. But one of our topical areas or important areas is marriage disputes, matrimonial disputes. We have the power, they have the power to declare a marriage null and void, to officially, traditionally confirm a marriage dissolved. So as I am today, I can, and a marriage dispute is brought before me as a Odogu of IBUSA within my own enclave. I have, without referring, I can hold my counsel and then declare the marriage null and void and order the woman to return the bride price to the man's family. If the woman returns the bride price and the man's family as usual will refuse, the woman will return the bride price to me. And when the bride price entered my hand, the marriage is officially nullified. I will now personally take the bride price back to the family of that husband. So we have that role to play. And like the case of, like the situation in Benin, the fact that the Odogu of Benin is the only warchief that has a standing army called Ekaiwe or Obas Regiment. This other senior army commander like Iyase, who is a job, Iyase commands army by levy. That is, during war, they will now gather forces from other towns and communities, and Iyase will lead it. But he has no standing army. The Ozomo, who also control the metropolitan army within the Ogwe, has no standing army. They only levy during war. But the Odogu is an all-time commander of a standing army, the Obas Regiment, that helps to keep order at all times in Benin Kingdom. And that is why the Odogu is very powerful in Benin Kingdom. And that is why Odogu is popular among our people. So, and that is why the Odogu of Benin Kingdom is greeted Abi Gege, whereas our own case, we are just greeted Abi. So Odogu Abi, but for sons, Odogun Abi Gege. So these are evidence of Benin influence that have nothing to do with Southeast. So you can see that even that Ekaiwe is what we have today as Ndi Otuobu, war society among all Anioma people. So initiate that Obu society as the standing army of Anioma community. Every Anioma community has Otuobu or Ndekwagana, the warrior class, who are initiated into that area. And you are initiated with strict cultural rituals that have to make you very decent, disciplined, and upright, especially in matters of saying the truth. You have Obu from Oko Asaba. Like before you became Odogu or lawyer, so you must be an Obu, an Aganaman, Otu person. So by the field leadership, I lead the Obu people on the field leadership. That is on the field. But generally, the collective leader of Ndi Otu is the Ikwele. But the Ikwele is not an Obu man. The Ikwele can only become an Obu on death. It's when the Ikwele does, we will not initiate him into the Obu title to enable us giving the required burial rights. So the Obu is the standing army, what we have as Ekaiwe in Benin. That's standing army among Anioma people. And these are part of our customs and tradition. As Odogu too, there are certain things like when I associate with my Southeast Igbo brothers, or especially the king, related with many kings and chiefs, you find that they own this pattern of traditional leadership is different from our own. That as Odogu of IBUSA have a strong restriction on moral matters, on general outlook. I swore through the rituals of Israel not to lie, not to see white and say that it's black. It is a ritual commission. I don't need a pastor to tell me because I know the consequences. It's not something I will do and then go to a mere referent father for confession. No. It's something I disobey and I will see the effect immediately. I will see the result immediately. So to be Odogu is not just being Odogu. I know I also have restrictions on the type of food I eat. I have restrictions on how to drink. I can't drink in the beer parlor. On eating, I have restrictions on eating. I cannot eat in public places. I cannot go to wedding and eat. I cannot go to party and eat. I cannot go to burial ceremonies and eat. I can use my money and buy food. Near fair, we call it market food. Yes, I'm permitted, especially when I am out of my town. But if I go into my town, IBUSA, I cannot enter a hotel, a restaurant and eat. But if I travel, I can eat outside. But not in my town. So we have strong restrictions on what we eat, especially for Odogu and the Ikwele. All and they say could be flexible, but not for Odogu and the Ikwele. There are strict controls over how we behave. We have rules on if I have rules on even the type of women I sleep with, I interact with on sexual matters. I have strict control over sexual matters. So it's not a question of, oh, you see me messing up. No, I have strict control. And I also have days of the traditional week, Igbo week. Eke, Orie, Afonko. There are days I'm not expected to sleep with women. So it's not every woman I see I sleep with. I have categories where I cannot touch. Even in my present state of exile, running from IBUSA, fleeing from Nigeria to Cameroon, from Cameroon to Central African Republic, from Central African Republic to Niger, from Central African Republic back to Cameroon, from Cameroon to Niger, from Niger to Burkina Faso, from Burkina Faso to Ghana, From Ghana to Sierra Leone, from Sierra Leone to Guinea, Guinea to Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Bissau to Senegal, Senegal to Cape Verde, Cape Verde back to Senegal, Senegal to Mali, Mali to Togo, Togo to Rwanda, Rwanda to Uganda, and Uganda to Philippines, where I am today. For my life, throughout that period, I was conscious of these ritual rules surrounding my office as a police officer. Because I know that a little mistake can affect me adversely. And I will not be talking about survival at that point. So we find that these are restrictions that guide most of the titles in Anioma land, which are not found among our Southeast Igbo. I've gone to some, I've met some traditional rulers who are my friends. You see, they're eating in public. You can't see a traditional ruler in Anioma eating in public. You can't see a traditional chief in Anioma land eating in public. You can't say even an a high is a title man eating in public or eating public food. So these are certain restrictions that make it impossible for us to just say, oh, let us join the Southeast and then leave it, because there are strong divergence, strong separation, a very wide gulf in cultural terms between us and the world Southeast, just being covered under the collective identity of Igbo language. But then beneath, there are strong matters, strong tenets of our customs and tradition, which are not agreeable with the Igbo of Southeast, but are agreeable with the Benin, agreeable with the Shan, agreeable with Yoruba and Isoko. Because if you see the Oba of Benin looks very powerful. Yes, he's powerful. But what is the source of that power? It's the rituals which he has to obey. There are strong restrictions on the Oba of Benin that he will not like to, to go against. And his obedience to those restrictions, cultural taboos, that has to aura, the awe, the courage, the prestige, and the collective respect of the office of the throne of the Oba of Benin. And that is the way with Anioma. So we can see that within that context, yes, IBUSA was founded by Igbo people. IBUSA identified as Igbo community. But in terms of customs and tradition, at least at this level, we have seen how Benin has taken over IBUSA people and transformed us into a different character, making us a dope in our spirit, but then Igbo in our body. I will stop here. Next section, I will look at the aspect of burial and funeral ceremonies and how Benin culture has tremendously changed IBUSA customs and tradition in relation to funeral rites for burial, what we generally call burial ceremonies. That will be our next topic. Thank you for listening to me, and God bless you.